from Psalm 71, verses 17 and 18. O God, from my youth you have taught me, and I will proclaim your wondrous deeds. So even to old age and gray hairs, O God, do not forsake me. Psalm probably by an older person, as even in my old age, do not forsake me, O Lord, so that I will proclaim thy might to all the generations to come. As seasons change, so our life also changes with our age. There are seasons in our life. In our seasons of nature, spring usually brings growth, and summer brings all kinds of activities and swimming and outside activities. Fall brings football, and winter we have holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So does our life have various seasons, and you all know that. And God has been good to His creation to give us seasons in the nature. And I believe that God has been good in His creation of seasons in our life also. Young always. But that's not the fact. We all get older. We all get weak in our bodies at one time. But as one person said, do not regret growing older. It is a privilege denied to many. The modern society has become so self-centered and utilitarian that people are valued based on their productivity or the amount of return that you can give to the society. Believe it or not, even if you don't acknowledge it, each of us has been given a dollar value to our life by our work, by our society, by our government. And if you think about it, they look at dollar values when you go to work and how much you produce, how much money as a person you are bringing into the company that will give you the rating on your performance. And it's only going to be evaluated progressively as it grows. It has to go up every year or every time they review. That's happened in our lives as well. Not just work. As we progress into our ages, the society puts certain values of return that they expect from us. And then when it goes to a declining state, the society really are not very encouraging in our support. And when you go to the hospital, you will see how they look at the insurance and how much life you have left to live, and make a decision about certain treatment that you can go through. These are all based on business and economic calculations, where how much you can produce. And our society is after young and youth and vigor. Because, we do not see heroes with wrinkles or older, bald-headed heroes of Superman. You don't see that. They're all vigor and youth and young. This particular psalm written by, like I said, is a psalm of an old man. He is an old man with many trials and problems, but he is obviously a joyful man who is able to put his focus differently than many of the people around him. Some scholars think that this psalm was written by David when he was in his old age, or some other people say that it was written by, I don't know, given there who wrote this psalm. Whoever wrote this psalm, he goes through a reflection. He or she goes through a reflection of the life in the past, and then relate that to the rest of the life, whatever is left, that God has given to live in this world. Old age comes with its problems, just like young and middle age have their own problems. A lot of times we think that older people have more problems. That is not true. Every stage of our life has problems of its own. George Bernard Shaw once said, youth is a wonderful thing, but what a crime to waste it on children. They don't know. They have youth, they have energy, but they don't have the experience to do whatever they think they can do in this world. So you and I know that youth have, at that stage, has a lot of problems. But how about middle age? Middle age is also full of problems. Somebody said that Middle age is when your age starts to show around your middle. You have starting health problems, and some people go through midlife crisis and all kinds of problems in the middle age that you can see. So as we progress into our ages, old age also has its own problems. It's not just all people have problems. Everybody has problems in one way or other. But Mark Twain said, interestingly, he said, life would be infinitely happier if we could only be born at the age of 80 and gradually approach 18. That's not going to happen. And I don't even think I would be infinitely happier if I'm growing towards 18 and towards the death. Work either. We gradually lose our strength and beauty as we grow older and get to our old age. I call that prime time. Then our hair starts getting gray and our skin wrinkle up. And there is a reason why God has given these stages in our life. We will know our weakness, our frailty of life and body when we are 80, much, much more than when you are 80. And so we will be eager to leave this temporary deteriorating part of our body and become truly homesick for our eternal home, so that we will be ready to go from this world. If we stayed young and strong and beautiful, we might never want to leave. That is what life seasons are all about. So in our church here, we have a lot of prime timers, a lot of experience and testimonies of God's work in their lives that is filled with full of experiences that you can reflect and look back. And the psalmist here also is looking back at his long life and go through and reflects how God has kept him through his young age and his middle age and now in his old age. Even though he has changed his seasons in his life, he doesn't see a change in God. Right from the womb of my mother to this day and age, my hairs are graying and my skin has changed a lot, but my God did not change a little bit. He is the ever-present God who is the same yesterday, today, and he will be the same tomorrow. That is what the hope that this psalmist is giving us. Be with me, O God, in my old age, so that I will proclaim your mighty acts to the next generation. That really inspires me. In our old age, we have a bigger mission than when we were younger. We have a bigger responsibility because God has given us so much experience in our life to proclaim to the next generation that follows us. Even though our loss of strength is real, physically, sometimes a person who said, even though I am old, I still have a full deck. I just shuffle a little slow. That's true. But we are still full of life. God has a mission for each and every one of us, regardless of what season of our life we are in. And also this psalmist reflects on his lifelong struggles. In verse 10, we read that, for my enemies speak concerning me, those who watch for my life consult together and say, God has forsaken him, pursue him and seize him, for there is none to deliver him. Some difficult times that he is remembering he went through. Even though his body is weak and he is in his prime time now, the problems probably are not going to fade away. They are going to stay. But my God is still with me in the middle of those problems, just as he was in my young age. Then he's also talking about loneliness. In verse 11 we read, God has forsaken him, pursue him, seize him. He's bothered by the fact that he had company one day. When he was young, he had a lot of friends, relatives, children. They were all together. And he felt a lot more having company. But now when in his old age, he is feeling lonely. Many of our friends may have moved away, some of them with their children to their places. Our partners probably have left us through death or separation, or our children moved away from us. But there is still A God who is going to be with me regardless of my situation when I find myself alone. The psalmist is not allowing himself to sink into a sea of self-pity in the middle of his old age. He is not naming these problems one by one, but he is encouraging us to look at the works of God in our lives and reflect on them so that you can proclaim those mighty acts to the next generation to come. That is the gift of old age, a lifetime of lessons learned that can be proclaimed to the next generation. Only the prime timers can do that. That is the responsibility of the prime timers, to proclaim to the next generation about a great God who has kept us through our life. God teaches us through experience. And the school of life, learning these things, that God is taking us step by step for a purpose, according to the psalmist. The purpose is to share those stories and to tell God's goodness to the next generation as a proclamation. Some of us probably have been saved 30, 40, 50 years ago. And a long faith walk that we had with God, very long time. There is a purpose that God has kept you through this, that the next generation will have to know how God has kept you through this long journey of faith. Charles Spurgeon, the great preacher, once said, "They are highly favored who can, like David, Samuel, Josiah, Timothy, and others, say, 'Thou art my trust from my youth.'" Because you look back years and years of walk with God, it is a privilege and it is an opportunity that God has given only to you that was denied to many. And that is a great responsibility. So that confidence in God is far more valuable than our physical strength or our intellectual skills when we get older. Great confidence in God that God has given and built us up so that we can share and pass it on to the next generation. So I want to challenge you and all of today to sit down and reflect on our faith walk, how God has done mighty acts in our journey, and write them down and note them down. Opportunity to sit down and write and reflect and write. If you want some help, there are certain books that you can get online or in the bookstores. Step-by-step guiding to writing personal history by Linda Spence is one of the best rated ones. There's another book, How to Write Your Own Life Story. You can search these books. It will give you steps how to reflect and how to remember things and write them down. Because we are living in a generation where the faith in God is dwindling day by day. I read a report in CNN a few years ago that doubts about God are growing. In 2007, 83% said they never doubted God. But in 2014, only 52% of the people they polled are saying that they never doubted God. So the percent of people who trust in God is going down every day. The next generation needs to know a God who is real, a God who is faithful, a God who never changes. From age to age He is the same. And His everlasting love and faithfulness is new day by day. And the next generation needs to know that. Your God is real. The psalmist is saying that I want to declare your power to the next generation. That is the mission for each of us. We have a duty, like Paul says, on different ages. He is saying that, young people, obey your parents. When he comes to the older people, he says that live a way that is glorifying to God so that you can teach and train younger people. That is the mission for older people that Paul is giving in that book. So the rest of our life, we have a mission that God has given to proclaim the generation to the next generation, the proclamation age. That's what I want to call it. Billy Graham wrote an article on heaven about 3-4 years ago. Remember, Billy Graham was born in 1918, and in 2018 he's going to be 100 if he's still. What a great life that we have in front of us. A few years ago, his son Franklin Graham posted on their website an invitation to those who had come to know Christ under his ministry, Billy Graham's ministry, to send a letter or an email about their conversion experience. On his birthday, on November 7, I believe, Franklin Graham presented his father with 120,000 letters from individuals who said that they had made a profession of faith in Christ because of his ministry. A woman who said she accepted Christ in 1938, and he was a young preacher, 20 or 21 years old. That's the testament and testimony that you and I have, should have, to pass to the next generations. So let us write down our testimony. Our seasons of age is a blessing that God has given us to show God's faithfulness and mighty acts to the next generation. We never are too old for God. Moses was 80 years old when he began to lead Israel. Abraham was 75 when God's commands came for him to get out and leave his land to an unknown place. And we see a lot of his people like that. John Wesley, when he was still in his old age, he preached several sermons and at several places every day, riding his horse. So it is not too late to start proclaiming God's work to the next generation. So let us commit ourselves into God's hands to use us for the rest, the time that God has given us in this world faithfully